Hi, I am Rav Oren, and I'm happy to host you on my podcast, What's Your FOODIsh, where I meet the most interesting people to talk about their home, their childhood, family, and memories from the dinner table. And today, in this new episode, I'm happy to host Silvia Nacamulli. Silvia comes from a traditional Italian Jewish home that dates back at least 16 generations. Silvia refers to herself as a cook, not a chef. Her recipes and creations are self-taught and have a home-style cooking feel. After leaving Rome in her 20s, Silvia moved to Israel and studied political science at the Hebrew University. She then realized she wanted to branch out on her own. She started with private cooking lessons and then ended up teaching at the Divertimenti Cookery School in London for 15 years. Her niche style of Italian Jewish cooking led to a business, and now a new cookbook, which I must say in a personal note, I love it and it's beautiful. Her recipes stay true to her Jewish-Italian heritage and taste of tradition at home, and she's a part of our advisory board here at FOODIsh. So thank you so much, Silvia, for joining me at this episode.
Thank you so much, Marav, for such a lovely introduction, and hello, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Glad you're with us. So let's start from the beginning. Where did you grow up? A few words about your family, parents, brothers, sisters, grandparents. Where are they from?
Yeah, so I was born in Rome. I'm like born and bred. I come from a family of five. I'm the youngest of three. I've got an older brother and sister. And I grew up in an Italian Jewish family. So the importance of food has always been paramount, surrounded by huge quantities, as in many other Jewish households around the world. And I've been lucky to grow up with both sets of grandparents for quite a late age. And I got lots of cousins. And so the idea perhaps of the Italian family just add a level of Jewishness to it. And that's us.
You mentioned in your book that the Nacamullis originally came to Rome from Venice, but before that, Corfu. Do you see any Greek influence in the, cooking from your father's family side?
That's a good question, but the answer is no, mostly because my grandfather was from Venice and he moved to Rome in the 1930s, but he was not a cook. And all the side of this Venetian side of the family that stayed in Venice, unfortunately, they were all deported during the Holocaust. So we lost that part, and therefore in the cooking somehow it kind of got lost. So my cooking has got very much of a Roman tradition, a Roman Jewish influence more than Venetian. But of course I've got a soft spot for Venice, and it's got such an interesting cuisine that I do cook it today, but not because of a family direct influence.
And I know you also lived in Israel as well. So would you say it was like home to you when you were here? Because you cooked a lot while being here. So can you?
Yes, so I was there for my students here. I was there for 6 years. So definitely Israel is a home for me. For let's say my Jewish soul, it's very much at home in Israel. From a cooking perspective, and I'm a bit more on the Italian side, although the variety of food and the gastronomical mixture of spices and flavors that I experienced in Israel was fabulous. And that I kind of inherited and I brought with me then to London and adapted it a little bit in my cooking. So it's a very interesting mixture of both are kind of Mediterranean in flavors and the ingredients, the love for the importance of the quality of the ingredients, and I think they both have it. And then it's all about what you do at the end with those ingredients.
Yeah, saying ingredients in London, I mean, it's
Yes.
such a different, everything.
It is. Although I must give it to London that I think today you can find probably almost everything. It's quite incredible. It's a very cosmopolitan city, London in particular. I wouldn't say England as such, but so you can source a lot of the ingredients. I must say, of course, if you go to Mahana Yehuda or you go to Mercato Testaccio in Rome or anything like that, the quality of the freshness of the ingredients that is definitely hard to beat. But I think London does have a lot to offer, and also what it does have is got an openness of mind, and people are very curious and very very happy to try different flavors and to experiment a little.
Tell me, what is your earliest memory related to food and home?
Sitting around the table. I think I have endless pictures
Endless
of
hours of
tables. Yes. So more than related to a specific food, it's really about that feeling of sharing the food and sitting and the smells in the kitchen and preparing for the Hagim. Like my mother always hosted, like we host all the Rosh Hashanah and Pesach. And so it's kind of the getting ready for the Chag, and everything really always happened around the table. Um, as I start my book really with that sentence, but I really do think that a really important thing, relevant thing, often happens around food and a table. So that's
Yeah, I
perhaps
think also at
maybe.
Foodish, what we always say is, we talk about how food connects people, and as you say in your book, it's in effect, it's a family cookbook, and it seems that you're very much
Mhm.
connected to them, to your family. So, can you tell me a bit about how moving out of Italy and Rome specifically affected that bond? I mean, in the way of leaving, in a way, your heritage behind you.
Yes, it's. I think it's been a positive thing in all senses, in a way that sometimes whenever we are apart or afar from our roots, that's when we actually realize the importance of having an identity, and we go back to them, and that's when we kind of cherish them perhaps the most. Like when I living in Israel as an Italian Jew, you see how many Israelis they perhaps don't necessarily kind of do a kiddush every Friday night, or it's more connected to being religious or less religious. Well, actually, I think Jews across the world, they may do it just as a matter of identity. So I think by being away from Italy, my Italian Jewish identity, it kind of strengthened more than anything. And for my as far as a family goes, I think perhaps relationship also sometimes when we are apart and miss the everyday little quarrels, then they do get stronger. So I am very close to all of them, and I go back to Italy whenever I have a chance, every Pesach for sure in the summer, and then here and there. So I think as a whole, it has been a positive a positive thing somehow.
Interesting. And are there any specific traditions that you maintain your house, today? Family traditions?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. First of all, perhaps the Kiddush on Friday night. So the Roman Jews, the Jewish community in Rome, is the oldest in the Western world. Jews have been there for over 2,000 years, and the way that the liturgy in particular is one that kind of really survived all this time, and some of the tunes that the Roman Jews still sing still today in synagogue are, they say, straight from really the closest to the Bet HaMikdash. So the Friday night, the Kiddush, we sing it with a tune which is Roman Jewish, and although my husband is Belgian and Sephardi, and uh, we do sing it with like a Roman Jewish tune, and that's very dear to me. And the same for Pesach, like the singing of Pesach, of the Agadah, it really comes down to the Roman Jewish tunes. I think that's, and then of course the food. I think
Of course.
the whole luggage
Yeah.
of the food, the traditions, and I brought them with me.
Sounds like I want to hear it one day. In your recently published book, Jewish Flavors of Italy, a family cookbook, you have curated dozens of sweet and savory recipes interwoven with stories from your family life and history. Now, I heard in a
Mhm,
talk you gave a few years back that you said that your biggest dream is a book. If I may
mhm.
ask, now, after that you have published your book, what is your next dream or achievement that you'd like to
Uh, it's a good Jewish question. When you meet someone, you said, okay, so when you getting married? Then when you get married, they say, when you going to have children?
Kids, yeah.
So that's the same thing. So I just had the babies. It's like my book is somehow as my third child. And so I just had it. And at the moment, I'm honestly really just enjoying the sharing with it and seeing how well received it's being both in Italy and in England and slowly across wherever he's reaching it. So I'm really enjoying this. But I think perhaps also sharing recipes, like perhaps another project of sharing recipes, which are of course kosher, of the food that somehow kind of managed to break through the Italian rules, because Italian cuisine, it's a very interesting cuisine, which is, and I think is part of the reason that it's so delicious, is the fact that it's simple, essential. The ingredients are few, the ingredients are paramount, their quality is important, and you very rarely break the rules. So this is how you do something, and you don't really add another ingredients. And that's what was very interesting for me to live in Israel and then to London, is the fact of like this liberty that so many wonderful chefs they had, and they add other spices or cook something in a different way. And I was like, what? Really? That's fascinating. And but I always felt a bit of a sense of guilt by being Italian, that you're not supposed to do this with that. or but actually it's wonderful. So perhaps the first book I had to really give it as a legacy to my heritage and Italian Jewish cuisine, and I tried my best to be really loyal and true to the recipes. Perhaps if I would have a second project, would be almost the opposite, just breaking all those rules and see, even with the same principle of like like quality of ingredients, you can still create so many amazing things. So maybe that could be one of it.
Interesting. How long did you work on this book?
Oh, to many years, it's like more than 10 years, but I had somehow
Oh,
kind of different,
wow.
yeah, it's got
Like
had
a
different kind of
marathon.
life.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Different lifestyles, like life cycles. I started and I put it aside, and I started and I put it aside, and somehow in the last year and a half has been really the last push. So, as my
So now
one
I
of my
can
daughters got
understand totally why
young.
you say like it's your third baby. I mean, it's wow.
Yes,
Very long birth.
I have twin daughters who are 11 at the moment, and one of them says, this book is older than us. But whatever is going to come next, it's going to be a much smoother process, I think.
Yeah.
I hope.
So having said all that, who, if I can ask, who would you most like to have dinner with when it can be anybody, living or not, and why?
Great question. For as kitsch as I can sound, I think my grandmother, Nonna Bianca in particular, whose a few recipes are in the book, because I would love to. She would love this book that I've written. She would be so proud, and she would love to meet my daughters, and one of them is called Bianca after her, and I would really kind of show her all the recipe that she showed me, because yeah, I think definitely Nonna Bianca would have for dinner.
And maybe it's kind of the same, but that was who you wanted to eat with. And I would also ask, who would you like to cook a meal for? And what would you make?
Yes, actually, I had one of those dreams come true just a couple of months ago, because I had Claudia Roden for dinner, um,
Uh,
who she very
big wow.
kindly endorsed. Yes, so she very kindly and generously endorsed my book. I worked with Claudia in the past on different projects, but when I shared my book, she was really really lovely. And then, like when the book came out, I invited her and a few other authors for dinner, and that was really kind of almost a dream come true. So on that, I just ticked the box, I guess. But if it is a ticking, but I think it's more, really was wonderful to have her. And I cooked things from the book. I cooked a very simple home cooking dishes, and I think she appreciated exactly that. And was just interesting to have very interesting conversation and talk about food and different roots and different background, and how food really brings people together.
Yeah. Wow. So you're lucky. Although I must say, I would love to eat
Yes,
with her, not cook for her, because my
yes.
cooking is not that. But
I'm sure it's good.
I would love to have a meal with her. Um, what is your foodish? Your favorite Jewish food dish?
Carciofi alla giudia.
Which
Carciofi alla
is
so that's this yes, sorry, is the carciofi is artichoke, so alla giudia is Jewish style. That's perhaps the emblem of Italian Jewish cuisine. It's artichokes that specifically that grow in the area around Rome, in the Lazio region, in the South Tuscany, and they're called romaneschi or mammole, and they're called alla giudia because the Jews in Rome, they have a long tradition of knowing how to choose and peel and remove all the hard bits of the artichokes in a spiral way. So at the end, you're left with like a looks like a closed rose, and then you deep fry it and opens up like a sunflower, and it's crispy and it's delicious. And yeah, it's
I
definitely I think that
love
that would be my favorite
artichokes.
food.
Love it.
Yeah,
Anyway,
great.
in any kind of cooking, but I love it. What does Shabbat dinner look like at your place? What
Yes, so
you eat?
we do Friday night. We don't usually do a Saturday lunch. So the Friday night it's very important. Like every Friday night we are gathered together. In London, I have a very small family. I've got just my sister-in-law who lives here. So that's really the one thing that I do miss is the large, because my parents they still meet with my siblings and whichever grandchild is happens to be in Rome at the time. But in London, still we have like a very nice generous meal and stay together, and it's kind of the lengthy meal of the week, and of course kiddush, and I make challah every week, and
Are you the cook
it's a
always,
lovely
or
time of the
does
week.
the family also help? Like anybody else cooks with you?
um well, my husband can cook. He's sometimes probably not for Friday night. For Friday night, I cook. My sister-in-law she bakes. She makes the most wonderful sourdough bread, and she also makes lovely cakes. So sometimes she definitely every week I make a challah, and she makes a sourdough. And then sometimes we have a dessert, but not always.
So it's
So
always
but
like a extended family. I mean, with your sister and for the
Yeah,
Friday
and
night.
sometimes we have some family friends over, or sometimes we go to them. But we always have a Friday night. And I remember also growing up in Italy, even as a teenager, early 20, there was just no going out on some Friday night. It was just so it's. But I love it. I never really minded because it's a really nice time of the week.
Yeah. And any special family holiday gathering that's like any special traditions or like a dish that you remember that has to be in any of the holidays? Like I can tell you that in our house, in Yom Kippur, after the fast, you will
Mm-hmm.
always have, of course, tea and honey cake and like very light stuff after the fast. Not that I fast in the last 20 years, but when I was a child, this is
Yeah.
what was in my parents' home. 30 years, sorry, that I'm not fasting already.
Yeah. For us, perhaps a family holiday would be going to my parents have a house at the seaside near Rome. So every summer we gather with my brother and sister and the cousins. We about 15 of us, and we stay there. And that's really a lovely time that we spend all together. And there's this kind of 15 people for lunch and 15 people for dinner for like 2 weeks. The amount of
That's
food is
fun.
just incredible. Yes, but there we all cook and we all do. It's very casual. It's really nice. That's one thing that my mom always does. Does like a huge barbecue actually for everyone. Which, funnily enough, you mentioned Kippur, because the most unusual tradition that my family had, now not anymore, but up to really until I lived at home, was at the end of Yom Kippur to break the fast. We would have like a chicken soup and chicken and beef soup, and then we would have a huge barbecue, like a really grilled, like a steak on the barbecue, which is defeats all the
Yeah,
reasonable
well,
principle of.
everything you fasted after.
Yeah, but so that somehow yes, that also comes to mind. But otherwise, a lot of tomatoes. Like at the seaside, we grow a lot of tomatoes. Sometimes we have about 100 kilos of tomatoes in a summer, and so any from raw tomatoes in or sauces or baked, like roasted or any possible way.
Okay. Listen, now we have a questionnaire, which is, I call it the fast questionnaire. I didn't send you the
Okay.
questions because that's the idea.
Okay. Sure.
You don't need to think too much, just, shoot. Okay.
Mhm.
Coriander or parsley?
Parsley. I don't need. I don't need coriander. I have very few things that I don't eat as fresh herbs, and coriander and dill are the two that I can't have. But apparently, it's a very common Italian thing. A lot of Italians can't have coriander. I don't know.
Yeah,
But yes, sorry.
me too. I hate coriander, and everybody I ask is, either you love it or you hate it. I don't
Yes.
think I know
Yeah.
anyone that says,
Yes.
oh, it's okay, it's okay. I can,
Yeah, it's an out kind of question.
yeah,
Although I do like coriander seeds, but it's a very different
yeah,
flavor.
it's different. Yeah,
Um,
totally.
yeah, yeah,
Sweet or spicy?
spicy
Nice. Salad or steak
steak.
for Yom Kippur breaking the fast?
Exactly,
Um,
thinking of that. Yeah.
Sharing or individual dishes?
Oh, sharing, no doubt. My husband
Okay.
has no choice when we go to a restaurant. He just like,
Keep eating the cake or stop at a slice?
oh, I'm mostly a slice satisfies me. But if so yeah.
Because like every time I ask this thing
But
in
not because I
Israel, there's
stop myself. It's because it's great and that's it.
like there's a habit of I call it straightening the lines. Like if it's a cake, you keep
Mhm.
just a bit. You don't take like another slice. You just make it straight.
Yes,
So the
yes.
line
Oh,
will be straight.
definitely. Oh, yeah. That I could definitely do. Yeah, yeah. If that
Oh,
I could
okay.
definitely do.
So that's what I meant. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Breakfast or dinner?
Lunch.
Okay, you got it. Over the counter or at the table?
It depends from the food. I wouldn't have a. If it's street food and over the counter, it's great. If it's like a nice sit down dinner, yeah. So I love them both.
You start the meal with salads or soup?
Neither, I think. Like definitely no salad. It's not really Italian to start with salad. So perhaps I will start with a soup. Although I do like salad when they serve it initially, but it doesn't come naturally.
Really? You don't start like with
Nah.
Okay, and this I don't know what you're going to answer because it's challah or sour bread, and I know you have both, so I
Oh,
bet you
I
love.
really love them both. Yeah. I think I did my sister-in-law sourdough. I think it wins really because I have more of a savory flavor than taste than the challah, than the sweetness of the challah. Although I love the challah, so I gotta 6 days a week sourdough and 1 day a week challah.
The challah. Okay. Okay. Well, that's it. I want to thank you so much for being my guest today. It was really interesting,
Oh,
and I
my
enjoyed
pleasure. That was
every
great.
moment.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And a big thank you to you, our listeners, for being with us. And join us for the next episodes of What's Your Foodish? Because it's going to be fun.
Thank you.